Rent or to buy? That is the question. Cheesy, I know. But seriously, let's talk about it. Years ago, it made a lot of sense to buy versus rent because your mortgage payment was so much lower than rental rates because mortgage rates were low. And since rates have gone up, as well as home prices, that may not be the case anymore. But we're going to take a look at that today, specifically for the Phoenix area, and you can decide what makes the most sense. So let's jump into it. And welcome. If you're new here, I'm Caitlin McKegg. I'm a real estate broker here in Phoenix, Arizona, always giving some information on this channel as we look at data as it relates to Phoenix real estate and the economy. So here's what I did. I wanted to find out what the median square footage is of rentals currently, and that's 1619 square feet. I also wanted to see what the median was for home purchases, and Cromford Report did not have median that I could find, so we're looking at the average, but that's okay. We're going to take a wide range anyway. So that's about 1900 or so square feet. So what I decided to do was put in 1,600 to 2,000 square feet as our kind of average home size and look at what those rental rates are. So $2,350. So if you're going to rent a house about that size, you're paying about $2,350 a month, generally when we look at everything together. Now, let's take a look at the median sales price, which is about $440,000 if you're buying the same size house, 1,600 to 2,000 square feet. So $440,000, what interest rate are you getting today? Again, this depends on a lot of factors, but let's say 7% because that's kind of where we're at these days. So 7%, we'll bring up our little mortgage calculator here, 440,000. Let's say you put down 20%, which is 88,000. 7% interest rate, your payment is $2,689. Definitely more expensive than the $2,350, was it $2,350? Yeah, that you would pay in rent. So on the surface, it makes more sense to save that $300-ish a month and just rent a home and not pay as much, but get the same product for your money. Again, this is all hypothetical in a perfect world, right? But let's talk about the benefits of buying too, because you have to remember if you do purchase a home, that's an asset that you own, something that you can sell in the future. There's also the opportunity to refinance if rates go down. Now, that means that the home price or your home value has to still be positive. We can't have had home values go down and then your home's worth less than what it was when you purchased it, because then you can't refinance. But that aside, again, in a perfect world, let's say that you can refinance. So let's say rates go down to about 5.5%, which would be a beautiful thing to see these days. Last year, we wouldn't have thought that was so beautiful, but that's what we're saying today. So let's say that you refinance to 5.5%. And I just put in the same purchase price so we could see the difference of payment. You're at $2,346. So you're just under the amount that you'd be spending on rent. And this saves you like $300 a month or so if you're able to refinance. So keep that in mind, that price that mortgage payment that you're starting with doesn't always have to be what you have forever if you do have the opportunity to refinance, if home values stay positive, etc. But let's talk about the other benefit of buying, right? Like I mentioned, you have an asset that you can then sell in the future. Now, I know a lot of people want to kind of argue with that and say that home prices could go down, but let's just look big picture. Historically, what have home prices done? And there's been some bumps in the road, no doubt. We all remember 2007, 2008. It took us a long time to come back from that. Then we've got our little spike dip from last year. But when you look long-term, big picture, home prices have done nothing but increase over time. largely because of inflation. But 1965 was a long time ago. So I would hope that home prices move along with everything else. Point being here, if you have a long-term time horizon, if you're thinking about staying in a home long-term, it's your primary residence, it's not very risky to purchase right now. And likely, if you plan to be there 10, 20, 30, even 50 years, by the time that you sell it, it will have gained value as compared to when you purchased. Now, you have to keep in mind, though, you can certainly lose money on a home purchase if you are forced to sell at a time that is not a good time to sell. So there's always that risk no matter what. But let's look a little bit more at some numbers here, and I'm going to bring over this Excel spreadsheet. Let's say the home appreciates at 4% appreciation every year, which is not that hard. We were seeing really high appreciation rates, for example, last year in the double digits, but typically in a normal market, homes appreciate at the same rate as inflation. So let's call it 4%. In 5 years, your home value would be about $535,326. And that means you've gotten about $95,326 in appreciation for doing nothing other than just owning it. If you refinance, like we talked about, you're saving about $381 a month. That's $4,500 a year that you have the opportunity to save. So those are both really great benefits. Again, market dependent on a lot of this stuff, but if you have that long-term time horizon, this makes a lot of sense. If you spend 5 years renting the same place, assuming they don't raise your rent, which could happen, but realistically, I don't know, typically they're raising rents, $141,000 you've paid in rent and you own nothing. You have nothing to show for that. So all in all, I think that's really the biggest advantage of purchasing a home is that you're paying in towards something. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these numbers are very high level. There are, of course, fees to refinance. There's fees when you purchase and get a loan. There's a lot of other things to consider, but largely when you can see that you would own something that you would be able to actually sell in the future, it's definitely a benefit. So I hope that helps. If you're on the fence about buying or renting, those are some things to consider. And if you want to get more information on what you could qualify for, we have a couple mortgage lenders we could recommend. So check the description below. You can also set up a discovery call where we can talk a bit more about your situation and hopefully guide you in the right direction. Thanks for joining me today, you guys. I appreciate it so much. I will be back on Monday with another market update, so stay tuned for that. I'm Caitlin McKegg with the Desert Dreamers team.